2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
Hello?
Hey. That's Shane Welter, ladies and gentlemen, co-host of 2414.
I'm back. Yeah. So exciting.
It's been a while, Shane.
It has.
Nice to see you.
It has. Re-getting into the rhythm of recording. It's not easy.
There's a lot going on.
New rhythms of life are not easy. It's hard to adjust things if you've got patterns.
That's kind of like an ongoing theme in our lives and in this podcast and in this series.
Exactly. That's kind of why I'm trying to hit it on the nose a little hard there. Yeah. Just like, so if you really want to make a change, you want rest in your life, you're going to have to make that change.
Yeah. Well, here's what's not going to change. Well, it might change someday, but I love how we start each episode, or at least most episodes, doing some highs and lows, playing a little game, having some fun, because that matters as much as weighty things in life matter. Connecting with real people and just delighting. In the same way that like art or music, like it's not pragmatic in some ways, it's not practical, but it's good and it's part of what makes life worth living. Mm-hmm. So not that Wheels versus Doors and Outburst are on the same level as like Bach or anything, but maybe they are. I don't know. It's kind of it's the beauty of real life.
It's the beauty of joy. Yeah. I don't know.
So a low and a high, Shane. Where are you coming from today? Where are you at?
Yeah. Lows, I would just say, just navigating people, like whether it's, work, independent work that Lauren and I do creating music, or it's work here, like doing ministry. Either way, they both involve like people, people come first in a lot of things in most jobs, but I don't know. It's not like a factory job. I'm just making toothbrushes kind of off an assembly line kind of thing. So it very much working with people. Sometimes it can be the best thing ever. Sometimes it can also be the hardest thing ever. And so feeling that pit right now of just navigating people and relationships.
And you care, so you like,
darn it. I wish I didn't care.
Sometimes it'd be easier.
As bad as that sounds.
No, it'd be easier to not care, but you love people.
Yeah, I love people, and especially in ministry, you invest in them because you love them, and you're called to love them because Christ first loved us. And that just makes it all the harder when people kind of don't reciprocate that, or just don't give a flying hoot if they care about you. So navigating that, it's it's always a challenge. But high is that Lauren and my band, our duo, Shore Lane. We're doing real stuff now, and that we're.
What do you mean real stuff?
Real stuff, and that we're releasing music. So at the time of this recording, we have one song out, two voices, one song. You can look up Shore Lane. People always say it wrong, whether we're at gigs or anything, like shoreline, or they're like Sherlin, like shore lane, like beach shore, and then lane, like a road. Shore Lane.
That's their problem. That's not yours, Shane.
It is. It's a hearing difficulty, maybe. But we released our first official song, Two Voices, One Song. Just very much embodies Lauren and I in our music and our marriage and our relationship. Two voices coming together as one. Two voices coming together for one song of life.
How long have you been playing together as a duo? Like 10 years?
As an official duo, it's about like 7 ish, maybe 7-8 years, but we've been doing music together our whole relationship ever since high school.
You've been gigging as Shore Lane at least as long as I've known you.
Yeah, almost like 7 years. We did when Lauren was still in high school, when I was like a freshman in college. Okay. Yeah,
I don't want to sound judgmental, but it seems like you took your sweet time putting the song out.
It took way longer than it needed to, way longer. But
congratulations, Shane. That's cool.
we're doing it.
Congratulations.
And so by the time this podcast is releasing the same day as our next single is coming out, we kind of did back-to-back releases. It's called Lord Breathe. It's about how the same breath of God that created Adam is the same breath that gives us life today.
Okay.
As we rest in God's promises and look at his resurrection. I'm like, we pulled out all the stops for that song, and I'm really excited for it.
You're dropping music left and right.
We've been at work. We have been at work, so it's really exciting. So, people listening to this, finish this podcast. Hope you listen to it, but hope you also listen to Shore Lane because we're really excited for it. And also with that, we're going to be at the time of this podcast release, we're going to be presenting at the Christian Music Summit over in Tacoma at Our Savior.
Nice.
Just telling people about what we do. Navigating being indie artists and worship leaders and how those worlds go together.
Yeah. Okay.
So super exciting stuff for me. So lots happening in my life, but I think it's the season where everyone's got a lot happening in their lives. So tell me about all the things happening in your lives and the highs and lows.
Say about some of them, I guess. A high, low, two sides, one coin. Oh my goodness.
A little chuckle there.
Is Major League Baseball playoffs. So a high was got to watch a lot of baseball. Two lows. One low is that it's over, and that's kind of sad. The other low is that one of the teams had to win, like Dodgers and Yankees. I'm like, all right, I guess somebody has to win, but I don't want either one of them to win.
Yeah,
but it was fun watching.
It was really good baseball.
World Series was exciting from the first game to the end. It was like this was good.
It had to have been like the most viewed World Series ever.
So that's kind of a somewhat silly high and low, but it was real. Like I really enjoyed it. I got to spend family time watching it. Kids were invested.
Your kids were watching history too. Like I think it's awesome. That's
so that was
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Some other maybe more substantive highs and lows. One low, life is hard. Like people are hard.
Yeah,
what you're saying. Feeling it like family. Like in a marriage, it's two people. At least if you're going to do it like how Scripture says. There's probably other versions, but in my household, marriage is two people. And we love each other very much. And yet we each have our own blind spots and weaknesses and failings and frustrations and sin and, just like, and we're living our own lives. Like we each have responsibilities. That's probably a good word. Like we each have responsibilities and we're like independently and together, and so it's just hard. Even like when nobody has like screwed up, nobody's sabotaging anything, nobody's like hurt anybody, it's just like it's still frustrating.
I think it reminds me of a song Lauren wrote, like it's just like I will it's about trusting God in the in-between. It's just like like we feel God in the highs and the lows, but like there's so often this in between, like this, like the normal, like.
Yep. So that's hard. Of like, it's not like, hey, this person, like I or she failed, and then we just need to like that person needs to apologize, then we forgive and move on. Like, no, there's nothing to apologize for. It's just hard to do life in the same household. So that's a low. It's also a high. It's been a really good week for great family time. Got to celebrate a birthday a week or so ago. Had some good conversations with the kids this week. Had some
you said that so vague. Whose birthday was it?
I had a birthday.
Oh, okay.
So at cross country practice last night, we were doing hill repeats up in Auburn. It was work.
That's
But at the same time, I love hills. And these kids who talk a lot, like I can crush them. And
you got a little ego.
Yeah. So, last night they were asking me how old I was. I was like, well, I just turned. And they're like, no way. They're like, they thought I said 80 years old. Like the way they responded, I'm like, I'm not. Like, what do you think that means? But they thought I was 100 years old, and I was like, no, seriously. And they're like, and you're like the fastest one out here. I'm like, well, in our group, I am. Let's ignore that other group for a minute.
Ignore the older kids.
Ignore the bigger kids. But I got to feel awesome that they thought somebody as old as me could run that fast. Like, you're in better shape than like most of the kids at my school. And I was like, yeah, I am. You know it.
So you work hard, man.
That feels pretty good. And then another high, like a substantive one, is a friend of mine. This sounds low, and it is low. A friend of mine, his dad died this weekend. And that's real sad. But the high was he reached out to me and asked if, like, could I come visit and pray with him at the hospital? And partly because I'm a pastor, but also partly because I'm a friend. And seeing the value of real friendship is just so beautiful, and I don't take it for granted. Like, it's hard to get past small talk and casual, safe conversation, but to get to a spot where you have people in your life that you love and they love you, and you can share hard things. It's uncomfortable to get there, and it takes a long time to get there, but it's like, this is living.
Yeah, and that's like I don't know, the fruits of your labor, but also it's just like that's investing in a relationship. Like it takes, like you're saying, it takes patience and time to get to that point.
Yeah.
We can be vulnerable and talk with one another.
Yeah, so to be invited into somebody's life at a hard time was like, that was the most like honoring, beautiful thing.
And to, like as both, like as a friend and as a pastor, like it to live both on those, I don't know, live in both of those worlds. It's really awesome.
Yeah, so those are some good highs and lows in my week.
Oh.
All right, what game are we going to play today, Shane?
So we're going to be playing our little game, Wheels versus Doors. Past few episodes, we've done some Outburst, a few in a row.
It's not been a good run, by the way.
There's been some hard questions. Yeah, we haven't been on a good roll, but don't worry, we'll be on an even worse roll after this.
You won Wheels versus Doors last time.
I won. I got the clean sweep of our version of it, at least.
Yeah.
So Wheels versus Doors. If it's your first episode, welcome. Also, we've got a few other episodes before this in our little series of rest. But this game, Wheels versus Doors, it's about this vague question of, are there more wheels or doors in the world? And you're supposed to guess, which one there might be more of. And this game just takes, simplifies that by asking, how many movies have Dwayne The Rock Johnson been in? And how many doorknobs are there in the White House? And you're trying to guess, which one is there more or less of? Or that's how we play it, at least. We don't know how the rules
haven't read the rules.
No. That takes too much time.
I threw them right away.
Yeah. Unless it's the theme of a podcast episode, we're not going to read all of it.
So Shane is going to read 6 items on a card, and the numbers we can't see, they're on the back, and we are going to guess between us, and you can play along at home, of these 6, which one is the biggest number and which one is the smallest. So which one are there the most of, and which one are the fewest or the least of.
So really do play with us, otherwise it's going to be very boring just listening to us try to figure things out.
It might be boring if you play along too, but we're okay with that. All right, Shane.
It's a sacrifice we're willing to take. All right.
What are our 6 things?
Our 6 things. Number 1, types of coffee beans.
Okay. Types of coffee beans. How many types of coffee beans can you name? I was going to say coffee beans. 1. I came up with 1.
I'm thinking of the different flavors, like of bags I see, but I don't know if those are flavors or just like branding. So I don't know.
Types of coffee beans.
Number 2, violins in an average symphony orchestra.
Ooh, violins. I thought you said violence.
Violence.
How much violence is there in a symphony?
Yes. If it's Tchaikovsky, lots.
Violin. Violins
in an average symphony orchestra.
Average symphony. Okay.
We got an average number. Number 3, landlocked countries in Europe.
Landlocked, so they're like not touching water at all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it's the definition that we think landlocked is.
Okay. I just making sure we're on the same page here. Wow.
Footnote here. All right. Number 4, hours sleep. I feel like there should be an of. Hours sleep a giraffe requires per night.
How much does a giraffe sleep?
Yeah. Hours of sleep a giraffe requires per night.
Wow. Okay. Let's finish them out. I got some thoughts already.
Many thoughts. Number 5, liters of beer consumed annually for every person on Earth.
So liter, not leader, like a unit of measurement. Liter.
Liters.
Yep.
Litres.
Liters of beer per capita
liters of beer consumed annually for every person on Earth.
Okay.
And then number 6, percent of world's forest in Canada.
Percent of the world's forest that's in Canada.
Yeah.
Wow. So because we have a percentage question, we know that all of these are going to be either between 0 and 100. So we're not going to have like 10 trillion. Because
there still could be over 100.
No, I mean, it'd be more than 100% of the world's forest.
No. I know that. I know.
Oh, I guess that could be the smallest one.
Yeah, I'm just saying there could be another answer within the 6 that is over 100.
So we've got types of coffee beans.
And we're trying to figure out what is the highest number within this category and which is the lowest number.
Okay, so types of coffee beans, violins in a symphony, landlocked countries in Europe, hours a giraffe sleeps a night.
And do you think Europe includes like Eastern Europe?
You got to do your own geography skills here, Shane. Liters of beer consumed by the average person around the world, and percentage of the world's forest that's in Canada. I think I'm ready. These all seem low to me, by the way.
They do.
It seems like the lowest category one we're ever going to have. Actually, I'm going to change. I think I might change that one.
I know. There's one
I've got a runner up.
I know. There's one I feel like I'm being tricked on, but let's try it. Let's try it.
This is hard. I feel like there's a couple that seem going to be high to me, and a couple that seem like they're going to be pretty low.
Okay, I'm ready. I can go first if you want.
You want to do your both of them high and low?
I'll start. We'll alternate. I'll do our highs. Okay. So for me, highest one I'm saying is the liters of beer consumed annually of every person on Earth. That's
my runner-up. What do you think? I started there, and then I thought types of coffee beans. I bet there's like 1,000.
There's probably so many, but
So my first answer was beer, and then I was like, I'm going coffee beans. So that one just feels like such a wild card.
But also, liters of beer consumed annually for every person on Earth.
It's hard to say because I don't think children and like people in nursing homes are.
But the whole state of Wisconsin, just carries everyone.
Yeah. And like the World Cup is happening somewhere, and
exactly.
Okay, those are both good.
Lowest. I put landlocked countries in Europe.
It's a toss up for me between that one and hours a giraffe sleep. So for the sake of being different, I'm going to say hours a giraffe sleeps.
You put 2?
Well, it was either or, and I'm going to go hours a giraffe sleeps.
Okay. My runner-up was the violins in an orchestra.
I figured there's at least like 10 of them.
I mean, there's a few, but it's definitely not a high number. Like, I don't know that the average would be.
See, I think
there's at least ones I've seen. Like, but I don't know if it's including like violas and cellos and that.
Those are different. I went giraffe because I think. I think it's a big animal, so it probably needs to sleep, but it's also a pretty vulnerable animal, so it can't be sleeping for like 12 hours a day. It's going to get eaten.
But it just uses so much energy. Like, I'd be surprised if it were under like 9.
It's such a vulnerable thing, though. Like, any lion's just going to latch onto his neck, and that's just it.
That's true.
Or get stepped on by some hippo.
All right, the suspense is killing me. So,
all right.
Do you want to do this highest to lowest to highest?
Dealer's choice.
All right. We're going to go lowest to highest here.
Okay, lowest to highest.
The lowest number with 2 hours of sleep a giraffe requires a night.
Yes! Let's go. 2 hours.
The next, 2 hours. Next lowest number is types of coffee beans with 4.
Oh no!
There's only 4.
I thought there'd be 1,000.
I thought there was
4.
Look at all the different bags at like Starbucks of the different kinds of coffee, but I guess it's all roast types, I guess.
There are 4 types of coffee beans.
That's boring.
That's dumb.
I think there'd be more.
I thought there were 1,000, Shane.
Yeah, it had me. Trust it fooled me. All right, number 3, third lowest is percent of world's forest in Canada with 9%.
Okay.
I could see that. Canada's big.
Yeah, I didn't know about like those Northwest Territories. It could all be just totally undeveloped. The Yukon. And
it could have been 25. I don't know. All right. Our third highest is landlocked countries in Europe.
Okay. How many of those?
14. I lost all around.
I'm not sure I can name 14 countries in Europe.
Liechtenstein. There you go. That's
okay.
A gimme. All right. 14. Second highest is violins in an average symphony orchestra with 17.
17. Okay.
Still seems like a lot to me. That's why I'm convinced they're like, violas and violins are the same. Like 17 violins in an symphony orchestra. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bad music major here.
I haven't been to a symphony for a while.
I feel like I was, and that still seems like a lot for the average number, but whatever. All right. And our highest, our highest is liters of beer consumed annually for every person on Earth with 22. Oh no, I did get the high.
Yeah.
All right. So we split.
So the average person, like how many billions? Is like 8 billion people on the planet, something like that. 6 billion.
8, 9. Yeah.
Drinks 22 liters of beer a year. That's more. So that's almost 2 liters a month. So like in my household, there's 5 of us. So if 3 of them don't drink at all, that means Charlotte and I are each drinking like 50 liters of beer a year to maintain the average.
Wow. So
that's crazy.
It is crazy. Also, try to
picture like a 2-liter Mountain Dew, Shane.
Yeah.
Like this, your water bottle, there's probably a liter.
One of those a month or 2 of those a month?
2 of those a month. Every man, woman, and child on the planet. That's a lot of beer. Germany's carrying their part.
Germany's carrying their part. I think it's, I'm trying to imagine, like, is China like a large beer drinking population? I
wouldn't have thought so. I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. No, I don't. That's
listeners.
Just a commercial.
Just a sure. Yeah, I know. The Dos Equis commercial.
I feel like we grew today, Shane.
I feel like we've learned a lot, and so would our listeners. And maybe our listeners did way better than us. Maybe not. The world may never know.
So giraffes sleep less than you would think and are much shorter than you would think.
that's a way back reference.
That's a callback. But I one time was playing a similar guessing game, and the question had to do with how tall the average like male giraffe was, and I was thinking of a brontosaurus.
And what'd you say? Like 30 feet? Like
no, it was like 60 or 80 or something. Something ridiculous,
massive.
And to this day, randomly, my brothers will just start laughing at me. The answer was like 23 or 18 or something super lame, or like 12. I don't know. They're not as tall as you'd think.
I mean, they're pretty tall still. Like,
I mean, they're pretty tall, but
maybe not.
They're not brontosaurus.
Stories.
Yeah, they're not brontosaurus tall.
So you will be disappointed when you go. But 2 hours, that's crazy. Speaking of 2 hours of sleep, I think the average human could not run on 2 hours of sleep.
Not for long.
And I think rest is important for our lives. And we just happen to so be in this series.
I don't know why you worked so hard at transitions to make it awkward.
I love transitions. People are going nuts for them.
People are clamoring for more of Shane's transitions. Give the people what they want, Dan. All right.
I'm just saying, a high quality production has nice transitions.
Okay.
And we're 1% of the way there.
We are nothing if not a high quality production. That's what people always say about our podcast. You go to Apple iTunes reviews, a lot of high quality production comments.
High quality. Have you seen their transitions? Or heard, I guess, whatever it is. Well, now we're talking about...
We've been in a series on rest and Sabbath for a while. Not because we're experts, but because we struggle. And
because we need it.
Because this is not natural for either of us to figure out routines of rest, kind of rhythms of being, rejuvenated and sustained in how we exert energy and enjoy life. So we are processing through a book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. We spent a few weeks diagnosing the need in our own lives, maybe some of the cultural challenges around us, and we've been making our way towards solution and what this book sets forth as like 4 or so main things that we can be doing to have more rest and Sabbath sustainability in our life. But today, this chapter we're looking at is sort of introducing the idea of practices or disciplines in general. And I have to say one comment, Shane, before we get into substance. I hate this chapter for how it's printed. If anybody owns this book, I apologize. This chapter was printed, so when you read a book, normally, it's like a light background, often white or cream, with black
paper colored,
generic paper color with typically black font words, and that's what we're used to. For some awful reason, as evidence that we live in a broken world, the editors and publishers of this book decided, you know what? For this chapter, let's make the pages black and have white letters.
I appreciate that it's different, because like if you're gonna make a statement that like, hey, this is the most important section of this book as we transition, like it stands out. Yeah, the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I can't wait to get to this like weird colored section or black whatever section. But yeah, then it dawned on me as like I'm trying to take notes. I'm like, I can't write.
You can't underline. I guess if you had a highlighter, you could have highlighted the white letters.
But even then, like,
it's dumb.
Yellow doesn't pop a lot.
So if you read the physical copy of this book, I'm sorry. Maybe Kindle was different. Maybe I need to switch to Kindle for this reason alone.
Be interesting seeing what that. Yeah.
That being said, this chapter is introducing or reminding us of the idea of practices or disciplines that if we're going to have rest and we're going to have stability in our life, we might have to do something different than what we're doing. It's kind of a crazy idea that, hey, if you don't like what's happening, you need to do something different. That's the kind of premise where we're at. And so if you like everything about your life, keep doing what you're doing. If there's something you don't like, you might have to do something different.
And yet change your whole lifestyle, routine, whatever that might look.
Yeah. But, or a part of your lifestyle routine. But you're going to have to actually have a new thing happening in your life. Maybe stopping things, maybe starting things, but doing something on purpose. It may be like in an ongoing sort of way. So some solutions are just like a one and done. Like
your washing machine is broken and you just needed to screw in this one thing. You do it, all of a sudden your washing machine's fixed, done and done.
Yeah. So like as it relates to rest, something in my life recently, I quit a number of things. I don't know if we talked about that in the podcast or not. I think maybe we did that briefly.
Even if we didn't, I mean, want to elaborate?
Yeah. Well, I found myself overcommitted, involved in too many things that I really enjoyed. And yet it was unsustainable for me to keep doing all these things. And so a couple things and maybe more on the way, I reached out to my boss, supervisor, person, whoever I was kind of working with, and said, like, this is going to be my last time, or I'm going to be done now, or can you find somebody to replace me for this commitment? And so for each of those, it was kind of I made the decision. I wrote the email, I hit send, and like done. So like that's not a practice or a discipline. It's something I did, but it was kind of a one-time thing. Now maybe that could be an ongoing discipline of regularly evaluating my life and pruning back things that aren't helpful. Like that to me would be a discipline or a practice the way this book is talking about it. If you made an intentional rhythm of evaluating and pruning. But for me, these were just like, I just stroke of the pen, I did it.
Yeah.
So this book, so this chapter then is not necessarily talking about you made that one decision, but it's introducing or reintroducing the idea of practices and disciplines that are ongoing that help maybe bring your life into alignment with your values or what you want your life to be. I don't know if that's kind of how I see this chapter is, you are not a helpless victim, and your life in many respects is the product of your ongoing choices.
either the ones that was established, from your childhood and just carried on, or whatever, since you just grown into them, or maybe you started more recently. But either way, yeah, your lifestyles very much define you.
Yeah, and we receive a lot of this stuff. Like maybe you were saying, you're taught as a child, or it's in the culture that you are in.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think, like, if your parent, like for me, my parents grew up in the church. I went to church regularly so I could be brought up in the faith, and that was a healthy lifestyle routine for my life.
A discipline or a practice that once a week you go to a house of worship.
Yeah, and that was instilled in me. But I think there's plenty of other people. They grew up in a household where baseball is the heartbeat of their family, and like since they were little, they were involved with Little League. They watch baseball often, and like that is a part of their identity.
Yeah, and regardless of how you were raised or what your culture values, at some point you make your choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you're grown up to the point now, like, hey, you no one's controlling you to that extent where you can't not.
Yeah, so maybe this was a choice that was imposed on you. Maybe it was never intentionally a choice of this is a value or a practice or a discipline in my life. But this book is inviting us, and we are walking with each other to say, are the rhythms of our life healthy? And if not, what should change? What should we start doing, stop doing, change how we're doing it? And then this chapter is grounding us to say, what are those formative practices? What are the habits, the routines, the rhythms, the things you're doing that are intentionally either safeguarding rest or creating rest or boundaries or something that, kind of modern language like centers you. Mm-hmm. So maybe to like step away from Sabbath and rest, are there areas in your life, Shane, where you have you're aware of your intentional disciplines or practices?
I'd say more so I'm aware of my lack thereof of disciplines.
Okay. Like as a musician, do you practice?
Yes.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't mean to judge you.
No. And like, I this is like a good time in my life for like, that's a perfect example for me for that. Like more recently, I've been wanting to become a more disciplined musician in that regard, and more so than just a lot of good, like maybe good routines in my life through music come from like, I'm a worship leader and I'm on a schedule to help lead music and to play and sing that music as well. And that's a motivator for me to do that, and therefore it kind of becomes part of my life in that aspect. But within that, like, sometimes there has to be other times I'm like, well, I'm not playing electric guitar, but I want to be able to play electric guitar. So I want to have these like practices to be able to do that. So more recently in my life, I've been like, at least once a day at some point when I get home is just practice scales on the guitar so I can become more fluid and more natural with it. And part of that, like as a musician, I think like practice is core in that. If you're not playing your instrument, like that's like, it's hard to be a musician in that. And so that's kind of been a more recent discipline in my life of that. But I think there's other examples of like lack thereof disciplines of like, I don't know, as a American Gen Z millennial aged person, we like to find rest just by like being mindless and like turning your brain off, quote unquote. And so like just to like doom scroll on your phone to just be consumed and be entertained has been, I think, like an unhealthy like routine lifestyle in my life that has not been positively shaping me. Like, whereas like I just needed a nap, but instead I spent 3 hours just doing nothing. Yeah. And I feel more tired and more stressed because of it.
So that's a practice that's not supporting your goals.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even call it like a practice, because I think that's just like the worst kind of like example like of a routine you can have that's not bettering. And you don't always have to be bettering yourself at something like especially when it comes to rest, like rest, it's in the title. But like in that instance, I'm like, I'm not like, maybe I'm like resting because I'm not doing something, but it's more of a distraction. It just take my mind off of other things in my life that consume my thoughts.
Yeah. I want to call it a practice. Because to me that sounds it puts the burden on you. Like, you are doing this and you're doing it all the time.
It is,
and you are consciously doing it, perhaps, and like that means you're in control, and it's shaping you.
And
if you don't like how it's shaping you, like, what do you want to do about that?
Yeah, and I'd say like I don't want to play the victim card out of that, and just like, and that like. It's just a bad thing I do. Woe is me. But it is like more and more people are recognizing it nowadays, like as an addiction. Like people are addicted to
I
like,
appreciate
their
that.
phone or social media, and like especially like in the like how addiction is described. It's something that like your body wants, craves, and like needs, depends on. Because there's like especially like times like. I don't know, like before I go to bed, I'm just going to go on my phone. Like I will do it without even thinking about it. And then like a few seconds later, I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I just need to sleep. Like,
yeah, another, I think that's really helpful. Thank you for kind of not pushing back, but pushing back, because I think another definition of addiction I've heard recently is something to do with like, something you kind of engage in, even though the results are negative. Like, it's going to be negative, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that I think is a helpful way of thinking about addiction.
Yeah. And and again, like I am not a helpless victim. Like if I just broke my phone in half and threw it away, like good. Right. I'm not going to be craving, like my body isn't going to be like shaking and uber dependent on it. But it is like a practice that slowly have developed into an unhealthy routine, if that's a better I think, definition of it.
And so maybe kind of just pressing into this narrow example for a second, a healthy habit or practice or discipline you might develop would be something like, I'm going to put my phone in airplane mode at 8 p.m. and I'm not going to open it up until 8 a.m. And so then that is a rhythm or a discipline that you are consciously choosing to do to support something that you value in your life. And so then the discipline or the practice is, I'm going to literally put in airplane mode, and then do not disturb.
That discipline then becomes like abstaining from it, and that in itself is a practice because I'm waning this unhealthy practice.
Yeah. I enjoy thinking about practices, disciplines as kind of habits of formation based on like values. So here's a something I've mentioned on the podcast probably regularly, and our listeners are like, we know, Dan. But I think it's a good example because it's such a low bar, is I play video games on Friday mornings. I've got a brother in Arizona and a brother in Virginia, and we log on to PlayStation 4 every Friday morning. It's my morning. It's my younger brother's lunch break. He's out in Virginia, and for an hour, we catch up, we laugh. I'm terrible at all the games we play. Like, I used to be good at video games, Shane. I used to be cool. I used to be I'm so bad.
I used to be cool.
I'm so bad. This last week, I'm not even just bad at the game. I'm bad at like getting into the system to play the games. This last week, I turned it on at 7:30 in the morning. We play at 9. I turned it on at 7:30. Texted my brothers, "Hey guys, I'm ready for our thing at 9. There's no updates this week. I'll be ready." And at like 8:50, it's like, oh no, there's like a 9 gig update, and it's going to take a half hour for your system. I was like, sorry guys, I didn't do the thing right. I'll be there in a half hour. It's so bad.
To be fair, they've gotten more complex to try to figure out how to play.
It doesn't seem like it affects my brothers in the same way. They're like, we know, Dan. Anyway, this logging on, so it's fun. So like fun is a priority. Connecting with my brothers is a priority. Laughing is a priority. And so I have a weekly rhythm of, on Fridays, this is what I do for an hour. It's not as important as like church and faith formation, but I am, you could say, religious about it in the same way that like, this is what I do. It's on my calendar. I miss a week if I have to. Like I have a Zoom call or I'm out of town. So there's exceptions where I'm not there. I'm not a slave to it. But short of something pretty exceptional, this is what I do. In the very same way, many Christians, they go to church on Sundays. It's what they do. or other faith expressions too. They have a regular hour for worship, and
if your routine of like devotion or worship, or
and it's I like the word devotion there too. Of this is something they are committed to because it supports a good in their life.
Yeah, because that religion, their belief is important to them, so that routine reflects.
Yeah, so they've built actions and habits, disciplines, practices around that value that support that thing.
Mm-hmm. And so, with your
video games
your
is
example,
that for me?
Yeah, or is the video games of that, or is it the?
You're right. So well, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it's 80%, 75% connecting with my brothers, and 25%. I like fun, and I want to schedule time to play video games because I want to turn my brain off and just laugh and play a stupid game. Right now, we're playing Rocket League. I'm so bad. I'm so bad at Rocket League.
Hey, it is a hard game, to be fair.
Not for my brothers or the people we play against, seemingly.
Okay, well, anyway, everyone's a pro nowadays. But
so the relationship and a little bit of silly fun time, and so this PlayStation 4 hour is a way, is a thing I physically do. It's not just like I'm going to think about my brothers. No, like I could think about them, but I put my headset on, I fire up the PS4, I wait for it to update. Eventually we talk. And so it's an embodied routine that is supporting something I care about. Mm-hmm. And you're right. That thing I care about, connection with my brothers and having fun, there are probably any number of embodied routines that I could do to get there. My wife has a weekly phone call with her parents and sister. Yeah, family chat. They talk on the phone, and Charlotte actually folds laundry. She has earbuds and she folds the laundry. Yeah, and so, but it's the dialing. It's the stopping like conversation with me or the kids, or like we're not going to schedule something else during that. It's a protected time. And she does this thing where she calls and she talks and she listens. Mm-hmm. So I could go for a walk with my brothers on the phone, or I could sit down and write a letter. Yeah. There's any number of ways we could embody this thing that we value. Mm-hmm.
And I guess connecting that embodiment to, I guess what John Mark Comer is saying.
What if we thought about
that bridge
rest?
In that?
Yeah. So the kind of bridging from, so I guess for our conversation now, wanted to start thinking about, we all value stuff in life, and we're all living embodied lives, and in our bodies with our time, like in real time with our thinking and feeling and doing, we are living, we are doing stuff in real time. Some of it's unexamined. It's just like we're just going with the flow, or we inherited something from our parents or our culture, and the things that we're actually doing are shaping who we are and how we experience the world. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a loaded thing. This is life. All of life is being formed and lived in real time. And so as it relates to rest, the kind of question this chapter raises is, are there disciplines, practices, habits that you could do or embody or prioritize a time and a space, maybe a physicality to it, that would support and reinforce rest? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's teaching rest. Maybe it is restful. Maybe it's providing, like video games provides a context for me to talk with my brothers. Mm-hmm. Are there things that we could do that would provide a context or create space for rest? Mm-hmm. Yes. I love the question. Yeah, it sounds winnable to me when I hear it like that. Yeah, if I want more rest, I have to do something different that's going to be more restful. Mm-hmm. So what could that be? It's that's where the rest of the book's going to go. Mm-hmm. And so I think, helpful items in that are figuring out what are the things in your life that are routines. What are the things in your life that are important, that are, I would say, if something is important in your life, yes, there is a routine in that. But look at
your calendar? What is it that comes up regularly in your life? Like, is that something you want to do or not?
Yeah. And for me, when I think about the truth, the reality that my life is in some ways like the sum of my choices, that's both empowering and it can be guilt-inducing. Because it's empowering. I'm like, oh, I can make a change. But then I feel guilty of like, I got myself here and maybe I don't want to change. Like, I like what I'm doing and I don't want to give that up. So then I feel like a hypocrite of, I want more rest, but I also want to doom scroll till 3 a.m. Well, you're an idiot. Like, I'm talking to me, not you, listener, or Shane. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be making choices that you know aren't good for you or aren't supporting what you want, and then complaining that you don't have the thing you want. Like, I want to be thin. Okay, well, you need to exercise and eat healthier. No, I just want to sit on the couch and eat pizza. But I don't want to get fat or have cholesterol. Like, sorry, that's on you. Like, you don't get to have it both ways.
Yeah, you have to figure out what you want.
So what do you actually want? Maybe you just want greasy food and the sedentary life, and that's okay. Then these are the choices that support that. If you want to be able to run and do all these other things, you have to make different choices. And so it gets to the idea of like, what do I actually value, and do I value it enough to make hard choices? And then that feels heavy, like guilty, shame. The things I say I want, maybe I don't actually want.
Yeah,
because my choices kind of reflect what I really want.
Yeah,
sometimes
I think it's hard. It's hard to live in it. Yeah, because I think there's plenty of things that I want, but I don't want to do. Or like, there's plenty of things I want. There's things I need. There's things I want. Like, there's plenty of reoccurring things in my life that like I can do better at and I don't need. But like at the moment, sometimes that, I don't know, the thing that I want is what I need. Oh gosh, it's so vague. I'm like, my thoughts I'm trying to describe, but trying to find, I really don't know how to put it to words.
I've got an example for me.
Yeah.
If I can share.
Yeah, please do.
We talked about grief a couple episodes, or last episode when you weren't here, Joan and Brenda and I, which was really a helpful conversation. And we've talked about some of those same topics before, but I think it relates to this. So for me, one of my griefs, it's somewhat ongoing. There's a lot of things in life that I thought I could be good at, or I thought I could do well. So I had this idea, and sometimes I still have this idea of, I would love to be able to just sit down at a piano and either play because I understand music, or I could sight read the music. Like, I love that idea. And I really think I could do that. I have a sight reading book at home, and when I practice it, I'm not bad. But I don't want to practice it. And I don't want to put 90 minutes a day. I don't want to put 10 minutes a day into this.
But you want
I want the outcome
of it. Yeah.
But I don't want the outcome enough to put in 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Which really means I don't want the outcome. Like, I like the idea of it. It sounds great. But if you said, okay, Dan, you can get there. It will take 10 minutes a day. Yeah, I don't want it that much. And so, like, I kind of want it, but not when it comes to actually making choices and habits and decisions and practices that affect how I live my real life. I don't want it that bad, which then that's sad for me, because I thought I wanted that. And I want the outcome without doing the work. And that's where I feel like a hypocrite, which then, if I'm going to be honest, I just need to say, I don't want it that bad, because if I did, I could do that. But I don't. I play more PlayStation every week than I practice piano. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And where's the line at feeling at peace within that?
Yeah, for me, it's being honest.
Yeah, of what you really want.
Yeah, to say, I had this dream, but at the end of the day, you know what? I'd rather watch Netflix and talk to my brothers and go for a run than be able to sight read piano music. And that's okay. Like, I don't need to feel guilty about that. And so the question is, like, with rest, if we want rest, we might have to do things different. And do you really want rest? Because it might cost you something. Do you really want to learn to play the piano? Because it's going to cost you something.
And I would even argue, I mean, like, I think every person needs rest. Like, yeah, I like the whole, like,
we're not healthy.
This book is getting at, we are not healthy.
We spent 80 pages on that.
Yes, we've established that. So the evaluation of that is so important. Of like, what is important in your life? What do you like actually need, or what routine lifestyle has been unhealthy like outcome? You watched TV for 2 hours maybe once a week. Okay, yeah, like that's not compared, like that's probably not a lot. Like, could that be considered an unhealthy habit? Like at that point, like I don't know. It depends on what you want and what outcome you're trying to achieve. Is it helping you just rest for that brief moment? You're watching TV for 40 hours a week. Okay, maybe like it. I can't imagine that's a good routine for you in your life, but what's the outcome you're trying to achieve, and what more do you want from that?
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
And this is a question I don't have an answer for. And
yeah, that's how I feel. I was just like, I don't know.
You were just highlighting, and I did this a minute ago too, the outcome, and then sort of begs the question of what are the practices that might get you there. So if the outcome is I can sight read music, then here's the practices to get you there. As we think about rest, even if you don't know how to get there, could you describe what that outcome would feel like for you? Like if you were to describe like a rested Shane, or a Shane who lives a lifestyle that's sustainable and marked by rest, what would that look or feel like? Like, who cares about how you get there, but what does Shane feel like on a Tuesday afternoon if he's living a life that's rested?
Yeah.
What would that, like, how would you feel or think? What would that be like?
I think it's been detrimental because people's ideas of rest are so, now I'm saying this for myself. My idea of rest has been so bad. Like rest for me for the longest time was I got to play video games and watch TV and, stay inside all day, and I got to rest. And like, as I'm getting older and maturing, like if I ever had a day like that, it was like, that was awful. I hated that. That was not what I wanted. And I wanted rest, but that's rest. What is going on? And like,
so those habits didn't support this outcome.
No. And so like,
so what is the outcome?
That outcome, I think it has to, we've been talking, we've been doing a lot of vision planning recently. And like, I think we have to give ourselves a winnable goal. And it's so hard to define that goal for rest. Cause a lot in this book, like, is very much leaning into like Jesus's words and Jesus himself, like, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And like, maybe someone interprets that to like, I have to feel like absolute inner peace, be all like, I don't know what you call that in like Buddhism or like,
kind of like a state of Zen of some sort.
Yeah, you're nirvana. I think that's what the word I'm looking for. Just like you're absolutely at harmony with yourself, and nothing else matters in the world. But
so that's one way people might describe it.
Yeah.
But what about you? What would it look like? Are there qualities? Are there attributes of rest?
Maybe for me, like it's speaking a lot into like contentness and doing the things that fill my cup. And I think I'm in a weird state right now of like what is filling my cup right now, and what is draining the cup.
Yeah.
And what is that balance, and like, how can I find Jesus as the answer for that? Whereas like maybe it is as simple as what's his name, Max Lucado's book of just the way you are, or I can't remember, Punchinello, and the stickers of like, don't care what like people slander you, or don't care if people give you praise. Like, it matters that the Father loves you, and like that you're beautifully and wonderfully made. And like that's why we should be at peace because of that. So
like that sounds cheap at times, or
maybe
like
it sounds
right
cheap,
answer?
or maybe that's the answer. Like, oh, that's it. But like, how do I feel that? Because I also have to like, you know, pay bills and like and you know, support the work I'm called to. And like I can't. I'm trying to define the answer because I think it's a hard answer to define in finding rest. But I think this book answers a lot of it, and that being, it might just be that there's too much that's important, and maybe that the outcome I want is I'm doing less important thing. I'm doing less things that are important, and that has given more room to just focus on the things that are filling my cup, so that when my cup needs to, be emptied for another person's behalf, and that draining, and that draining action of that, I'm still able to be filled in the things that, and the ways that God has made me, and like creating music and then putting that out into the world, that I've got time to do that because I've said, hey, being on my phone is not important to me in achieving that outcome.
Yeah. It reminds me of the phrase, my parents and grandparents, I remember going to some like old country buffet or something like that as a kid. And then that old idiom of like, your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Yeah. Oh, that's my life to the T. Yeah.
But I think like my ambitions are bigger than my capacity.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you haven't heard the phrase, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, it means like you took more food than you can eat because it looked so good. You wanted to have all this, but there's not room in your belly for it, and it's not good for you to eat that much.
And it means that you ate too much of the mac and cheese at Golden Corral, and now this pasta expanded in your stomach, and now you're crying and upset because you ate too much of the pasta.
Yeah, now you're speaking my language. But I think my eyes are bigger than my stomach. My ambitions, not like in a vain glory kind of way, but the things I want to do in life are bigger than I'm able to. And so as I was thinking about how would I describe this outcome or goal, like if we're going to develop practices or receive practices from the wisdom of, spiritual guides and people who've gone before us, like maybe we don't need to invent everything from scratch, but if we're going to receive and put into practice these disciplines, what are they working towards? Some of that outcome stuff for me is it's kind of negative. Like, so for example, I don't want to be in a frenzy. So
to find friends,
like this happened again yesterday in the office. Literally running out of the office because I'm late for something. Like here at St. Luke's, by the way, our from our parking lot to my office door, it's like a quarter mile. like it's a long walk in, then there's a long corridor, then through the offices,
long parking lot.
And so yesterday, I'm literally like running with my rain jacket behind me because I'm trying to squeeze in too much, as opposed to like, what if I like clocked out and like walked to my car and like was whistling, or like just something where like I could breathe and I had margin. So frenzy in the sense of picturing somebody like on Thanksgiving Day, like somebody in the kitchen and like the pasta's boiling over and the rolls are burning,
smoke coming out of the oven,
and just like you're answering the door and just like this one man band kind of thing of like that. Like, so a rested me is somebody who is not in a frenzy. I think looking for things like peace and contentment and having space as things come up. Like, I have time for that conversation. as opposed to, it's been 5 days since Charlotte and I talked, but you know what? Tonight's not going to be different because I got to go to the thing and do the thing and like blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to watch Netflix instead of talking to her.
Because,
those aren't supporting, I've got time for a conversation that matters. So like margin, unhurriedness, lack of frenzy, like a contentment of, it sounds new age, but like being present. I visited an 88-year-old today in a nursing home, wonderful woman of God. And I asked her, what have you been thinking about a lot? And she's like, I'm trying to just embrace what is and not worry about like what should and like all the guilt and burdens and just sort of like
beautiful.
Be where I am and accept what is.
Yeah. You're not going to change the world, but you know, like you're here right now in this moment.
So like that sense of like being present, of like, this just is, and this is who I am in this right now. And acknowledging where we are. So Shane and I, we were in a meeting a week or two ago, and the facilitator, before we began, she just asked, like, we're all coming from different spots. Like, how are you showing up today? And that, without a judgment of like, I should be more energized and awake and present and having done my homework. But it was just like, who cares what you should have done or how you should feel? Like, just where are you right now? And to say like, I'm tired, or I'm grumpy, or I'm disappointed, or I'm sad, or I'm distracted and confused, and not to label that as good or bad, but just, this is, and let me feel it for a minute. So to me, even those maybe negative sounding emotions are part of this preferred future of being rested, where I have the space to say, I'm feeling disappointed right now. Why do I feel disappointed? Oh yeah, that is a disappointing thing. Disappointment is an appropriate response. And this is what disappointment feels like. And I know to take more than 10 seconds to do that.
And I know for myself, like I don't give myself that kind of space for processing that. Like, instead of processing how I feel and even just talking to God, like just to pray about it, just to talk through, not for answers or anything else, just to simply just like live and breathe in that like moment of like, when I'm stressed and overwhelmed, like, golly, if I just took 5-10 minutes just to like sit in that, see it, acknowledge it, just to take time to think about it. Because I say maybe, because I don't know if it's an answer or not, but like, when I am that overwhelmed and frenzied, it's just because like I haven't given myself like space to just be.
And so like peace for me is not sitting cross-legged with like butterflies on my shoulders, you know, some like weird otherworldly experience. And peace doesn't even mean happy. It might mean I'm going to feel this sadness and maybe what if I took 30 minutes just to maybe literally wallow in it or lament in it and pray to God in it. And God, I'm really sad right now. This really hurts. Like, part of me says, I don't have time for that. And then at the same time, I have 45 minutes to watch Netflix every single night. Oh no, like that's convicting.
And I know, and maybe that is like an achievable goal for me, to go back to your question of like, what would that look like? Like, I think like I want to be able to be, this sounds so bad coming from a church worker, but like, I want to be able to just feel that joy and contentness, like when I I want to be able to look forward to and to feel like joy, contentness, like to just pray first instead of just going to my phone for things, or just going to these routines that have become distractions for me. Like if I could just like instead of just going to my phone first, just like to actually delight like in like God's world, like from the moment I wake up.
From the moment that I wake.
Yeah, but like from the moment I wake up to just say, even if I am waking up stressed or burdened, like the first thing like that I would want to do is to just pray, is to just like feel like peace in God's, in Jesus's like saving grace in my life. Like,
to linger in that moment, to stay there and embrace it and feel it.
Yeah, maybe like that is my goal. Like that I would feel that's my like go to rest, instead of what I think rest is, and binging phone and everything.
And maybe even lowering the bar for a second here, rather than, I mean, maybe that's a good outcome, like final goal.
Yeah.
But what I don't want you to think, you can think whatever you want, but like instead of like, I want to be able to get to that moment every time I feel anything, I would say like, what if for 15 minutes on a Saturday you had that? Like, even if that's all it was, my guess is that would be a pretty big win for both of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if 15 minutes on a Saturday, I just stopped and I acknowledged where I was and I prayed about it? And maybe that becomes more normal, so that on a Tuesday afternoon you can get there quicker.
Yeah. So like, I mean, like, the vision of that, like if you were to like imagine that, or at least how I'm visualizing it, of like, that's the mountaintop. That's the like, for like my personal like walk of faith, and not even walk of faith, just like my like a perfect lifestyle,
quality
like,
of life.
That I want. But like, until that, that winnable goal is like, I prayed for 15 minutes straight, like this weekend, and like that is the goal.
That's pretty
post
huge.
Like on the way.
Yeah. Other pictures for me as I think about this end game of what is a peaceful, restful, sustainable life. I picture things like, listening to a song like a couple times. Like maybe I got Spotify on repeat or shuffled in the background, and I hear a chorus or lyrics, and I'm like, oh, that was a good phrase. What if I had the time to just slow down and listen to that again? Mm-hmm. Or like, just literally I'm at the kitchen table and like maybe it's a Bach cello piece. I want to hear that 15 seconds. I'm just going to like scrub backwards, hear it a couple times, hear it in context. Not because I'm writing a paper, not because I'm performing, but because that was a beautiful composition and I just want to kind of bathe in it for a minute. Like that sort of margin feels restful to me.
I think, that gives a lot more, like more practicality to, like delighting in creation. So when you were gone on your vacation this summer, part of my message was the guy who wrote the message,
Eugene Peterson.
Eugene Peterson's
that guy's deep waters.
He's got incredible. But one of the articles you shared with me, like he had two like practicalities of like to both play and pray in your rest, like to be in communication with God, but to delight in creation. And I think that very much like just listening to music is that play, is that delighting in creation. Like maybe in that moment you're not talking to God, but you are just appreciating the world like for what it is.
Yeah. We were at Browns Point Lighthouse a couple months ago, and my boys and several other kids just in the community were skipping rocks for 45 minutes. It was awesome. Like that was their whole world. It's almost like that kind of, there's some joke or narrative about like a dog. Like a dog they're the happiest creatures because they're just present. Like whatever is in front of them, that's all they're thinking about. Like they're not worried about yesterday. They're not worried about tomorrow. Like whatever it is, that's their life. And so these boys skipping rocks, they weren't thinking about homework or middle school or high school or girls or their parents or their room. All they were thinking about was that rock they were skipping and how many times it splashed. And then they picked up the next one, and that's all they were thinking about. And it wasn't even like comparing with each other. Maybe it was a little bit, but they were skipping rocks, and that was the whole world for them. That level of presence and contentment of like, just right now, this is it. Like you and me, this is Shane. We're sitting across from the table, listener, you're listening. And like, I know there's 1,000 things happening in the world, but right now, this is all there is happening. Mm-hmm. And that's such a gift to be present in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Gosh,
that's my hope for rest. And
yeah.
So we want to look at in the weeks ahead, are there practices, spiritual disciplines specifically, that Christians throughout centuries, a couple millennia at this point, have found common traction in and have maybe even fine-tuned that we can apply in our context to say there is deep, deep wisdom in putting these things in place to get us to this kind, or to help put us in a position to experience this kind of reality.
Yeah. And I have definitely got a lot of good takeaways just from this conversation.
This has been good.
Of even just small term goals. I think honestly that really will is going to become a small goal for me along the way of this path. Whether that is my actual like mountaintop goal, I don't like.
If it's a piece of it.
It's a piece. It's a piece of it, and like it's doable. So find your doable goals.
Yeah, you're not a giraffe. You need more than 2 hours. You are not a superhero, Shane, nor I, nor every listener. All the research says you need a good 8 hours of sleep. You're not a superhero. Quit shortchanging yourself. So go get a good night's sleep.
Get good rest. I've been getting good rest recently.
Good.
It's incredible. Just what a good rest can really do for you.
That is a part of our limitations and God-given creatureliness. All right, I'm going to eat some candy corn. Thank you, Shane, for the conversation. Listeners, thanks for being part of it. Shane's looking for a sound effect.
Yeah, I thought
I'm always so nervous before you push a button because it could
me
be.
Too.
It could be.
There's some rough noises on here that
could be anything.
Are you're gonna say? So what did you say about the candy corn again?
I'm gonna eat some candy corn.
Okay, there we go. There you go. I just said.
I love it. More for me.
More free. Listeners, thank you. Catch you guys later.
Take care.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you, so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.